7 days had passed since Hayes arrived at Outpost Vega 9. Each day followed the same pattern. Guards would bring food twice. Intelligence Officer Krital would question him for hours. Hayes would give small bits of information that seemed important, but weren't. This made Krital believe the human was breaking. Today was different. Hayes was taken from his cell to a large room with many other prisoners. Most were aliens he didn't recognize, species from distant worlds who had also crossed the Zalarian Empire. But 5 of them were human. Alan Grant spotted him first. He was a thin man with a long beard who had once been a traitor before being captured. He walked over to Hayes while the guards were distracted. "They never put us together like this," Alan whispered. "Something's happening." Hayes nodded slightly. "Grand Admiral Zorthak is coming tomorrow. They're clearing the cell blocks for his security team." Alan's eyes widened. "How do you know that?" "I listen," Hayes said simply. He had spent every night with his ear pressed against the wall, catching bits of guard conversations. His translator implant worked even through the thick walls. A female guard approached them. "No talking," she ordered, her mandibles clicking, in anger. The humans separated, but not before Alan passed something small to Hayes. Later, in a quiet corner, Hayes looked at the object. It was a small metal shard, sharp enough to be a weapon. "From the food tray," Alan explained when he got close again. "Been sharpening it for months." Hayes thanked him but knew he wouldn't need it. His plan required more sophisticated tools. That night back in his cell, Hayes lay on his bed and activated his implant. "Update for Reeves," he subvocalized. "Target arriving tomorrow. Request package delivery." Miles away, Commander Reeves received the message. She turned to Susan Miller, who stood ready in a diplomatic uniform. "You're on," Reeves said. "Remember, the nanomaterials are in the medicine capsules. The guards will scan them, but their technology can't detect the components." Susan nodded. As a diplomatic attaché officially working to secure the release of human prisoners, she had legitimate access to Vega 9. The Zalarians allowed such visits as a show of what they considered mercy. The next morning, Hayes was taken to a small room. A human woman in a diplomatic uniform waited there. Susan Miller smiled professionally as the guards brought Hayes in. "Sergeant Hayes, I'm Susan Miller from the Earth Diplomatic Corps. I'm here to check on your condition and provide some medication for radiation exposure." Hayes played along, describing made-up symptoms that humans supposedly suffered in Zalarian detention facilities. The guards stood at the door, bored by what they considered routine. "Take these capsules daily," Susan said, sliding a small container across the table. "They will help with the radiation sickness." Their fingers touched briefly as Hayes took the container. In that moment, Susan also passed him a tiny data chip. "Thank you," Hayes said, showing the proper gratitude of a sick prisoner. After Susan left, the guards took Hayes back to his cell. He was careful to keep his movements natural, hiding his excitement. Now he had everything he needed. That night, when the station lights dimmed for the sleep cycle, Hayes crushed the medicinal capsules and dissolved them in water. The liquid separated into thousands of microscopic machines, nanobots designed to form whatever tools he needed. He swallowed the chip Susan had given him. It would dissolve in his stomach and release a chemical that would enhance his strength and speed for 6 hours. Hayes knew the next day would change everything. Grand Admiral Zorthak was coming to inspect the outpost, including the prisoners. Hayes would have one chance to complete his mission. In the cell next to his, Alan tapped on the wall. "What's happening tomorrow?" Alan whispered through the vent. The guard seemed nervous. "Change is coming," Hayes replied. "If things get chaotic, be ready to run." "What are you planning?" Alan asked, his voice suspicious now. Hayes was silent for a moment. He couldn't reveal his true mission, but he also couldn't leave these people behind. "Just be ready," he finally said, and spread the word to the others. On her stealth ship, Commander Reeves prepared for extraction. If everything went according to plan, Hayes would kill Zorthak and escape during the confusion. Her ship could briefly drop its stealth field to transport Hayes and any other humans from the coordinates they had established. "Status?" asked her. "Second in command." "Hayes is in position," Reeves said. The package was delivered. Now we wait. She looked at the screen showing Hayes's vital signs. His heart rate was steady, his brain activity normal. Years of training had made him the perfect weapon, a human who could control his body's reactions even in the most stressful situations. Morning came to Vega 9. An announcement blared through. The speakers in all cells. All prisoners will prepare for inspection. Stand at attention when the door opens. Hayes stood calmly by his bed. He had hidden the nanomaterial weapons in places the guards would never search, under his tongue, in his hair, even under his fingernails. The enhancing chemical from the chip was already spreading through his body, making him feel stronger. The door slid open. 4 guards entered, their weapons ready. Against the wall, one ordered. You will be scanned before the Grand Admiral arrives. Hayes complied, turning to face the wall with his hands spread. The guards ran a scanner over his body, finding nothing unusual. The nanomaterials were designed to appear as normal tissue to Zellerian technology. Clear, said the guard. Move to the assembly area. All prisoners were brought to a large central room. They stood in rows, surrounded by guards. Hayes spotted Alan and the other humans. He gave Alan a small nod. Whatever happened, he would make sure they had a chance to escape. A hush fell over the room as the main door opened. 6 elite guards entered first, their armor more elaborate than the regular guards. Behind them walked a tall Zellerian with deep blue exoskeleton plates decorated with gold symbols of rank. Grand Admiral Zorthak had arrived. The alien who had ordered the death of thousands of humans, including Hayes's family. Hayes felt the nanomaterials warming against his skin, ready to form into weapons at his command. His muscles tensed slightly, preparing for action. His face remained passive, showing nothing of the storm building inside him. The Grand Admiral began to move down the line of prisoners, occasionally stopping to ask questions or make comments to his subordinates. He was getting closer to Hayes with each step. Justice was only moments away. Commander Reeves's ship broke away from Outpost Vega 9 at full speed. Inside, Hayes and the 5 rescued humans held onto safety rails as the ship accelerated. Warning lights flashed red across the bridge as Zellerian vessels began pursuit. Hold tight, Reeves called from the captain's chair. She was exactly as Hayes remembered. Tall, with short gray hair and eyes that never missed anything. Stealth systems recharging. 2 minutes until we can disappear. The ship shook as enemy fire grazed their shields. On the view screen, 3 Zellerian cruisers were closing in fast. We won't last 2 minutes, said the pilot, a young man named Ben Clark. Reeves smiled. We don't need to. Fire countermeasures. Hayes watched as dozens of small objects launched from the ship. Each one emitted the same energy signature as their vessel. The Zellerian sensors would see multiple targets instead of one. Brilliant, said Linda Palmer, the scientist. She stood beside Hayes, still holding the Zellerian weapon she had taken. They won't know which signature to follow. The ship turned sharply, heading toward a dense asteroid field. The Zellerian cruisers split up, each following different decoy signals. Stealth systems online in 10 seconds, Ben announced. Hayes felt the slight vibration as the stealth technology activated. The ship seemed to fade slightly from view, its hull absorbing rather than reflecting light and energy. We're clear, Reeves said after a moment. They've lost us. The rescued humans began to relax. There were 6 of them total. Hayes, Alan Grant, Linda Palmer and 3 others. Jack Nelson, a former colony administrator. Maria Cole, a pilot, and Sam West, a medical officer. All had been captured at different times over the past 3 years. Reeves stood up and faced them. Welcome aboard the Nightshade. I'm Commander Evelyn Reeves, Earth Special Intelligence. Alan looked at Hayes with new understanding. And who are you, really? He asked again. Sergeant Daniel Hayes, Human Shadow Directive, Hayes answered. There was no need for secrets now. I was sent to eliminate Grand Admiral Zorthak. You used us as cover for an assassination, Jack said, his voice angry. The administrator was a short man with a round face that was now red with emotion. No, Hayes replied calmly. The mission was planned before I knew any of you were there. But once I did know, getting you out became part of the objective. Linda put a hand on Jack's shoulder. He saved us, she said simply. After 3 years, I'm not going to complain about his methods. Why Zorthak? Maria asked. She was the youngest of the group, probably in her 20s, with dark hair pulled back tightly. Hayes was quiet for a moment. He ordered the bombing of the Proxima colony. The others fell silent. Everyone knew about Proxima. The news had reached even the prisoners through the guards who enjoyed taunting them with stories of human losses. You lost someone, Sam said. The medical officer had keen eyes that seemed to look right through Hayes. Everyone, Hayes replied, his voice flat. My wife Kate, my daughter Lily, our home. Reeves watched Hayes with concern. She had known him for years, had seen him become harder and more distant after Proxima. The mission had given him purpose, but now that it was complete, she worried about what would fill the void. We'll reach Earth in 3 weeks, she said, changing the subject. You'll all receive full medical treatment and debriefing. Your families have been notified that you're alive. Alan laughed suddenly, the sound strange after years of captivity. I never thought I'd see Earth again, he said. I had almost given up. What happens now? Linda asked, looking at Hayes. With the Admiral dead, what will the Zellarians do? Hayes moved to the view screen, which showed the stars streaking by as they traveled at high speed. They'll blame internal politics at first. Zorthak had enemies in the Empire, but eventually they'll figure out it was us. So we just started a war, Jack said. No, Reeves corrected. They started it at Proxima. This was just the first time we hit back in a way they'll understand. Later, after the others had been shown to their quarters, Hayes stood alone in the ship's observation room. The walls were transparent, showing the vastness of space around them. He felt empty. For 6 months, killing Zorthak had been his only goal. Now it was done, and he didn't know what came next. The door opened behind him. Reeves entered, carrying 2 cups of real coffee, a luxury on a military vessel. Thought you might need this, she said, handing him one. Hayes took it with a nod of thanks. Mission complete, he said after a moment. And perfectly executed, Reeves added. The nanomaterials worked exactly as designed. Medical scans will show Zorthak died of natural causes. It will cause confusion in their ranks. Is that enough? Hayes asked. 1 dead admiral for 3,000 colonists? Reeves sighed. It's not about equal numbers, Hayes. It's about sending a message. The Zellarians thought we were weak, that we would accept losses without striking back. You proved them wrong. Hayes stared out at the stars. Kate would have hated what I've become, he said quietly. No, Reeves said firmly. She would have understood that grief changes people, but she also would want you to find a way forward. She pulled out a data pad and handed it to Hayes. New intelligence came in during your mission. The Zellarians are planning something big. A fleet gathering in Sector 7. Hayes looked at the information. Ship movements, troop deployments, all pointing to a major offensive. The Zellarians weren't done with humanity. They're going to hit another colony, he said, studying the patterns. Reeves nodded. We think so. And we need people who understand how they think, how they fight. You want me to stay with the directive? I want you to lead a team, Reeves corrected. These people you rescued, they've lived among the Zellarians, learned their ways. With proper training, they could become an effective unit. Hayes looked back toward the crew quarters where the others rested. They were civilians, not soldiers, but they had survived in enemy territory. They had strength they didn't even recognize yet. They deserve to go home, he said. They will, Reeves assured him. For recovery, for training. But then they'll have a choice, just like you have a choice now. Hayes thought about Kate and Lily again. He would never get them back, but he could stop other families from being torn apart. When do we start? He asked. Reeves smiled slightly. We already have. Your next mission briefing is tomorrow at 0800. As she left, Hayes continued looking at the stars. One battle was over. A larger war was just beginning. The Zalarian Empire had arrested a human soldier, unaware he was an assassin. Now they would face something even more dangerous. A human with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Somewhere out there, other Zalarian commanders were planning attacks on human worlds. They still believed humans were weak. Hayes would teach them otherwise. Grand Admiral Zorthak moved slowly down the line of prisoners. His 6 elite guards kept their weapons ready, watching for any sign of trouble. The regular guards stood stiffly at attention, trying to impress their leader. Hayes kept his eyes forward, his face blank. Inside, his heart beat steadily. The nanomaterials under his skin pulsed, ready to form into weapons. The chemical enhancer flowed through his blood, making his muscles stronger and his mind sharper. Zorthak stopped in front of a Rigelian prisoner, a furry alien with 4 arms. The Grand Admiral said something in the Zalarian language, and the guards laughed. The Rigelian lowered its head in shame. Then Zorthak moved to the humans. He stopped first in front of Linda Palmer, an Earth scientist who had been captured near the asteroid belt. She was an older woman with gray hair who stood as tall as she could. Human female, Zorthak said, his translator making his clicks and whistles into rough English. Your species refuses to accept its proper place in the galaxy. Linda said nothing, but her eyes showed her anger. The Grand Admiral moved next to Alan Grant, who tried not to show fear. This one has been here 3 years, said Intelligence Officer Krital, who walked behind Zorthak with a datapad. He still refuses to provide information about Earth trading routes. Zorthak made a dismissive gesture. Humans are stubborn, but ultimately unimportant. Finally, the Grand Admiral reached Hayes. He stopped and studied the soldier with his compound eyes. This is the new one? Zorthak asked. Yes, Grand Admiral, Krital answered quickly. Captured last week near the outer defense ring. Military type, but low rank. He has been cooperative. Zorthak leaned closer to Hayes. The alien smelled like metal and something sweet, like overripe fruit. Tell me, human soldier, do you know why your species cannot win against the Empire? Hayes lifted his gaze to meet the alien's eyes. No, sir, he said in a flat voice. Because we understand the necessity of sacrifice, Zorthak said. Your people cling to individual lives. You mourn your losses. This makes you weak. Hayes felt a cold rage build inside him, but his face remained calm. Like that colony on Proxima, Zorthak continued, his mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. Your people call it a tragedy. We call it strategy. 3,000 lives is nothing in a galactic war. Hayes thought of Kate's smile, of Lily's laughter. He thought of their home on Proxima, now nothing but ashes. Still, he kept his expression neutral. I wouldn't know about that, sir. I'm just a soldier. Zorthak studied him for a moment longer, then turned away, apparently bored. Continue the inspection, he ordered his staff. As the Grand Admiral moved away, Hayes glanced at the ceiling. He had been counting seconds since entering the room. Any moment now, right on time, the lights flickered. This was no accident. Commander Reeves had timed a small electromagnetic pulse from her ship, just enough to cause the security systems to reset. The guards looked around in confusion. Krital checked his datapad, which had also reset. Security check in progress, announced a computerized voice over the speakers. Stand by. Hayes knew this was his only chance. During the brief system reset, the cameras would be down for exactly 12 seconds. The guards' armor systems would reboot, making them vulnerable for a few critical moments. With a thought, Hayes activated the nanomaterials. They flowed from beneath his fingernails, hardening into small but incredibly sharp blades. The weapons were barely visible, just slivers of darkness against his skin. He moved. The chemical enhancer made him faster than any normal human. In 2 steps, he was behind the nearest elite guard. A quick slash severed the breathing tube that connected the guard's helmet to his air supply. Before the guard could react, Hayes had moved to the next one. Alarms began to sound, but Hayes was already on his third guard. The remaining 3 turned, raising their weapons. Hayes dropped to the floor as they fired, their energy blasts hitting the wall behind him. The other prisoners realized what was happening. Alan Grant shouted something and the humans began to move. Linda Palmer grabbed a fallen guard's weapon. The other prisoners joined in, creating chaos. Hayes focused on his target. Zorthak was being rushed toward the exit by his remaining guards. Hayes couldn't let him escape. Using a fallen guard as a shield, Hayes moved forward. The nanomaterials shifted again, forming a thin projectile in his palm. He had one shot. Zorthak turned, his compound eyes widening as he finally understood what was happening. The Grand Admiral reached for his personal weapon. Hayes threw the nanomaterial projectile. With perfect accuracy, it struck Zorthak in the neck, precisely where Hayes knew the Zolarian's main nerve cluster was located. The nanomaterials dissolved into the alien's bloodstream, targeting his vital systems. Zorthak staggered, clutching his neck. His guards fired at Hayes, but he was already rolling behind a pillar. "Security breach!" shouted Krital. "Lock down the facility." But it was too late for Zorthak. The Grand Admiral fell to his knees, his breathing labored. The nanobots were designed to mimic a natural Zolarian heart failure, destroying evidence of the assassination as they worked. Hayes moved through the chaos, grabbing Alan's arm. "Now we run," he said. "Get the others." Alan nodded and rushed to gather the human prisoners. Linda Palmer was already fighting like a soldier, using the guard's weapon with surprising skill. Hayes tapped the implant at the base of his skull. "Reeves, extraction now. Security Sector 4, Level 2. 6 humans total." In orbit, Commander Reeves received the signal. "He did it," she said to her crew. "Dropping stealth field in 3, 2, 1. The stealth ship appeared in Vega 9's orbit, its engines glowing as it accelerated toward the station. Hayes led the humans through the corridors, fighting when necessary. The station was in full alarm now, but the death of Zorthak had thrown the command structure into confusion. No one knew who was in charge or what orders to follow. They reached a maintenance airlock near the outer hull. Hayes had memorized this location from the station schematics Susan had given him on the data chip. "Reeves, we're at the extraction point," Hayes said through his implant. "Ready for pickup." The other humans looked at him with a mixture of fear and hope. Alan stepped forward. "Who are you really?" he asked Hayes. "Not just a Marine sergeant, that's for sure." Hayes checked the airlock controls before answering. "Someone who had something taken from him," he said simply. "And someone who took something back." The station shook as Reeves's ship attached to the outer hull. The airlock indicator turned green. "That's our ride," Hayes said. "Let's go home." As the airlock opened, Hayes looked back into the station. Somewhere in there, Grand Admiral Zorthak's body was growing cold. The alien had been right about one thing. Sacrifice was necessary in war. But Zorthak had been wrong about humans being weak. Hayes thought of Kate and Lily as he stepped through the airlock. Their deaths had not made him weak. They had made him the perfect weapon. The mission was complete. The real war was just beginning. The alarm rang through the Zolarian outpost as the guards dragged the human prisoner forward. Marine Sergeant Daniel Hayes stumbled between the 2 tall aliens, his hands bound behind his back with energy cuffs. His face was bruised and dried blood caked the corner of his mouth. The Zolarians clicked their mandibles in victory. They had finally caught a human spy. "Move faster, human," growled the guard on his left, shoving Hayes forward. The 7-foot-tall alien's exoskeleton gleamed under the purple lights of the detention center. Hayes kept his eyes down, counting his steps and mapping the facility in his mind. 20 paces from the landing dock to the first security checkpoint. 30 more to the processing center. Every detail mattered. The lead guard, whose chest plates bore the markings of a captain, stopped in front of a control panel. "Captain," Furzak reporting. "Human infiltrator captured near the outer defense ring. Subject appears to be military." Hayes listened carefully to the voice that answered, the language translator in his ear, disguised as a simple stud. Converted the alien clicks and hisses into English. Bring him to cell block D. Intelligence Officer Krital wants to question this one personally. Understood, Captain Verzak replied, mandibles clicking in what Hayes recognized as excitement. The aliens didn't often capture humans alive. Most fought to the death. They marched through 3 more security doors, each requiring different access codes. Hayes memorized each one, storing them away for later use. The corridors were wide and tall, built for the Zalarian physiology. The air smelled strange to Hayes, a mix of something like cinnamon and metal. You picked the wrong outpost to spy on, human, the captain said, poking Hayes with the tip of his energy staff. Outpost Vega 9 has never had a successful infiltration. Hayes said nothing. He let his shoulders slump forward, making himself look defeated and afraid. Inside, his mind was sharp and clear. 6 months ago, Hayes had been a different man. He had been stationed on Earth, counting days until his return to the Proxima colony where his wife Kate and 5-year-old daughter Lily waited. Then came the news that changed everything. The Zalarian Empire had bombed the colony, calling it a military necessity. 3,000 civilians died that day. His family was gone. Now Hayes was part of the Human Shadow Directive, an elite group tasked with missions too sensitive for official acknowledgement, and his current mission was proceeding exactly according to plan. The guards pushed him into a small cell. The door hissed shut behind him. Hayes immediately began a careful inspection of his surroundings while appearing to simply pace in distress. The cell was 10 feet by 8 feet. 1 bed, 1 toilet, no window. A camera in the upper corner tracked his movements. Hayes sat on the bed and closed his eyes, pretending exhaustion. In reality, he was sending a signal through the small device implanted at the base of his skull. The signal would reach Commander Evelyn Reeves on the stealth ship hiding in Vega 9's asteroid belt. Status update. He subvocalized, the words traveling, through bone conduction rather than spoken aloud. Phase 1 complete. Inside Vega 9, cell block D. Miles away, hidden among the asteroids surrounding the Zalarian outpost, Commander Reeves received the signal. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. Her fingers tapped commands into the ship's computer. Signal. Received, she whispered, relief evident in her voice. Life sign stable. The plan was risky. Hayes had allowed himself to be captured so he could get inside the otherwise impenetrable outpost. Intelligence had confirmed that Grand Admiral Zorthak, the military leader who ordered the Proxima bombing, would visit Vega 9 for inspection in 1 week. Hayes had trained for this mission for months. His body was enhanced with undetectable implants that increased his strength and speed. His mind was loaded with detailed knowledge of Zalarian biology, specifically how to kill them. The door to his cell slid open suddenly. Hayes looked up to see a Zalarian in a scientist's robe. Enter. This one was smaller than the guards, with more delicate mandibles and a lighter exoskeleton. The alien carried something that looked like a tablet. I am Intelligence Officer Krital, the Zalarian said. You will answer my questions, human. Hayes adopted a fearful expression. I'm just a scout, he said, his voice shaky. My ship crashed. I was trying to find help. Krital made a sound that might have been laughter. Your kind are such poor liars. We detected your approach. You were scanning our defense systems. I was looking for a safe landing zone, Hayes insisted, playing his role perfectly. The interrogation lasted for hours. Hayes gave away small pieces of outdated information, making Krital believe he was breaking down the humans' resistance. In truth, every question revealed more about the outpost's security protocols. When Krital finally left, Hayes lay on his bed and stared at the ceiling. The Zalarians believed they had captured a simple human spy. They had no idea that Hayes was the most dangerous assassin Earth had ever produced. In the cell next to his, someone tapped on the wall. 3 short taps, too long, an old Earth code. Hayes tapped back, surprised. Another human, came a whispered voice through a small vent near the floor. I'm Alan Grant, been here 3 years. Hayes moved to the vent. Daniel Hayes, he whispered. Marine Sergeant. They got you too, huh? Alan's voice sounded tired but hopeful. Are there others coming? Is Earth finally fighting back? Hayes measured his words carefully. Just me for now. How many humans are held here? 5 that I know of. They keep us separated most of the time. This was unexpected information. Hayes had not known about other human prisoners. It would complicate his mission, but he couldn't leave them behind. Listen, Hayes whispered. Things might get interesting soon. Be ready. What do you mean? Alan asked. Just be ready, Hayes repeated. He returned to his bed as footsteps approached outside. The door opened again and a guard brought in a tray of food. It was some kind of purple paste that smelled like burnt plastic. Hayes took it without complaint. As night fell, or what passed, for night on the space station, Hayes lay in the darkness, his mind running through step 2 of his plan. Tomorrow he would begin to map the guard rotations. He would learn the patterns of the security systems, and he would find a way to kill. Grand Admiral Zorthak, Commander Reeves, watched Hayes' life signs from her ship. She had worked with him for years but had never seen him so focused, so driven. She worried about what revenge was doing to him, but the mission came first. If Hayes could eliminate Zorthak, it might prevent the all-out war that was brewing between humans and the Zilarian Empire. Stay safe, Daniel, she whispered to the blinking dot on her screen. Remember the mission. But Hayes wasn't thinking about the mission as he closed his eyes. He was seeing Kate's smile and hearing Lily's laughter, and he was imagining the moment when he would stand face to face with the alien who had taken them from him. 3 months had passed since the escape from Outpost Vega 9. Earth's military headquarters buzzed with activity as reports came in from across the galaxy. The death of Grand Admiral Zorthak had thrown the Zilarian Empire into disarray, just as planned. Different factions within their military fought for control, each blaming the others for the assassination. Hayes stood at the front of a small training room, watching his team run through combat simulations. They had changed in the past months. No longer prisoners, they had become warriors. Alan Grant, once a simple trader, now moved with the confidence of a soldier. His long beard was gone, replaced by a short military cut. Linda Palmer used her scientific knowledge to develop new weapons specifically designed to target Zilarian weaknesses. Jack Nelson's administrative skills made him an excellent strategist. Maria Cole's piloting abilities had only improved with proper training, and Sam West had become the team's medical specialist, his knowledge of Zilarian biology proving invaluable. Time, Hayes called as they finished the simulation. 2 minutes faster than yesterday. The team gathered around the central table where a holographic map showed Zilarian territory. Specific points glowed red, indicating military installations. New intelligence from the border sectors, Hayes said, pointing to a cluster of red dots. The Zilarians are regrouping under Sub-Commander Kurlax. He was Zorthak's second-in-command and has now taken control of the largest faction. He's the one who ordered the massacre on Europa Station, Maria said. The attack had happened just a month ago, killing 500 human colonists. Hayes nodded. Yes, and our sources say he's planning something bigger. The door opened, and Commander Reeves entered with Susan Miller. Both women looked serious. We have confirmation, Reeves said without preamble. Kurlax is gathering a fleet near the Arcturus system. They're planning to attack New Eden colony. New Eden was Earth's largest off-world settlement, with over 15,000 colonists. A successful attack would be devastating for humanity. When? Hayes asked. 3 days, Susan replied. We have a narrow window to stop them. Hayes looked at his team. They had trained for this, but they hadn't faced real combat together yet. Are we ready? He asked them. We're ready, Alan answered for all of them. The others nodded in agreement. Reeves moved to the holographic display. We've developed a plan. The Nightshade will take you to the Zilarian command ship. Your mission is to infiltrate and disable their navigation systems before they can jump to New Eden. Sabotage, not assassination, Susan added. We don't want to create another power vacuum. Intelligence suggests Kralax's replacement would be worse. Hayes studied the schematics of the Zilarian command ship. It was massive, at least 5 times the size of the Nightshade. "We'll need to split into teams," he said. "Linda and Jack will target the main computer core. Maria and Sam will secure our escape route. Alan and I will handle any resistance." That night, as the others prepared for the mission, Hayes went to a small memorial garden on the base. It was a quiet place with trees from Earth and stone monuments for those lost in the growing conflict with the Zilarians. He found the stone with Kate and Lily's names. Someone had placed fresh flowers there. "I thought I might find you here," Reeves said, walking up behind him. "You always come before a mission." Hayes didn't turn around. "It helps me remember why we're fighting." Reeves stood beside him. "The team is ready, but are you? This isn't about revenge anymore." "Isn't it?" Hayes asked. "Every Zilarian ship we stop means another colony survives. Another family stays together." "True," Reeves said, "but there's a difference between fighting for justice and fighting from hatred. One keeps you human, the other—" She didn't finish, but Hayes understood. After killing Zorthak, he had felt hollow, not satisfied. The emptiness had only started to fill when he began training the team, giving the other former prisoners a chance to fight back. "I know the difference now," he said quietly. "This mission is about saving lives, not taking them." The next morning, the team boarded the Nightshade. The ship had been upgraded since their escape from Vega 9, with better stealth systems and weapons. As they prepared for departure, Hayes checked each team member's equipment. "Remember your training," he told them. "We know their technology, their tactics. They still underestimate humans. That's our advantage." The journey to the Arcturus system took 18 hours. They traveled in stealth mode, avoiding Zilarian patrols. When they arrived, the site was chilling. 20 Zilarian warships gathered around a central command vessel, all preparing to attack New Eden. "They're almost ready to jump," Ben reported from the pilot's seat. "We have less than 2 hours." The Nightshade approached the command ship using debris from a destroyed moon as cover. They docked at an emergency airlock on the ship's underside, a blind spot in Zilarian design. "Communications check," Hayes said as they prepared to board. Each team member nodded, their faces determined behind their helmets. The mission began smoothly. Years of studying Zilarian ships made navigation easy. Linda and Jack reached the computer core without detection. Maria and Sam secured their exit. Kraut. Hayes and Alan moved toward the bridge to create a distraction if needed. Then the alarm sounded. "We've been detected," Linda's voice came through the comm. "Security doors are closing around the computer core." "Proceed with the plan," Hayes ordered. "Alan and I will draw them away." What followed was chaos. Hayes and Alan fought their way through corridors, using the tactics they had practiced for months. The Zilarians were surprised by their knowledge of the ship's layout and their understanding of Zilarian weak points. "Computer core accessed," Linda reported after 10 tense minutes. "Uploading the virus now." The virus would scramble the fleet's navigation systems, making it impossible for them to jump to New Eden. The colony would be saved, at least for now. "Download complete," Jack added. "But we're cut off from the extraction point." Hayes checked the ship schematics on his wrist display. "Secondary route through maintenance tunnel J7. We'll meet you there." As they fought their way to the new extraction point, Hayes saw the changes in his team. They weren't just survivors anymore. They were soldiers fighting for a cause greater than personal revenge. They reached the Nightshade with only minutes to spare. As they broke away from the command ship, they watched the Zilarian fleet fall into confusion. Ships drifted out of formation as their navigation systems failed. "New Eden is safe," Reeves said as they jumped to lightspeed. Mission accomplished. Later, as Earth appeared on their view screen, Hayes looked at his team. They were tired but proud. Each had found something they thought lost forever in the Zilarian prison. Purpose. "What now?" Alan asked him. "Now we keep fighting," Hayes answered. "The war is just beginning, but at least we've shown them that humans aren't as weak as they thought." Hayes thought of Kate and Lily. The pain of losing them would never completely heal, but it had changed from a burning rage to something else, a determination to protect others from the same loss. The Zalarian Empire had arrested a human soldier, unaware he was an assassin, but they had created something even more dangerous, a defender who understood that victory came not from hatred, but from hope. As Earth grew larger in the view screen, Hayes made a silent promise to his family. Their deaths had meaning now, and as long as he lived, he would make sure it stayed that way. The Nightshade docked at Earth Station, bringing home not just a successful team, but a message to all of humanity. The galaxy was dangerous, but humans were no longer alone in the fight. They had heroes now, and the Zalarians were about to learn just how dangerous that could be.